As grey clouds slowly moved across the sky, the research facility was hidden underground, a structure isolated from the outside world. Only the most skilled scientists worked here, in a highly secretive place. Inside, a group of scientists attempting to conquer time was on the verge of conducting an experiment that would forever change the world. The control room was silent, with only the hum of machines and the constant stream of data on the monitors breaking the quiet. Team leader Quinn, despite the dark circles under his eyes, was excited. Beside him, Rhea watched the monitor with sharp, calm eyes. Silas, on the other hand, was tense and deep in thought, performing final checks on the machine. The three of them had worked on time travel technology for years, and now the moment had come. "Are the final checks done?" Quinn asked without taking his eyes off the screen. Silas nodded slightly. "Yes, energy levels are stable. We can activate the portal." Quinn took a deep breath and pressed the large red button. The massive machine in the center of the room began to hum to life. The noise from the machines grew louder, a massive wave of energy echoing through the room. The scientists held their breath. Within seconds, the very fabric of time seemed to tear apart. In the center of the room, a wavy image appeared. It was blurry at first, but gradually sharpened. Enormous trees, lush greenery, and moving shadows. "Incredible!" Rhea exclaimed in awe. "We've opened the veil of time." But within moments, things took a terrifying turn. On the other side of the portal, a massive creature swiftly moved toward the screen. Quinn's eyes widened in horror. That's a Tyrannosaurus Rex," he shouted. The massive head of the beast pushed through the portal, making its way toward their side. The scientists scrambled backward in panic, but it was too late. The giant T-Rex had jumped through time and was now standing in the present. The T-Rex slowly raised its head, filling the room with a deep, resonating roar. Quinn stepped back, his heart racing. Rhea's voice trembled. This can't be happening. It's here." The enormous creature seemed confused but highly alert. Its eyes scanned the strange machines and the panicked humans surrounding it. For a few seconds, it remained still as if trying to comprehend its surroundings. Quinn quickly glanced at his tablet, shouting, "What do we do? This thing shouldn't be here." Silas took a deep breath. "We need to shut down the portal immediately, or there'll be an even bigger disaster. If the T-Rex stays here, the world can't handle it." But at that moment, sparks flew from the machine, and the screen went dark. The portal had closed, but the T-Rex was now here, in the modern world. Silas rushed to the machine, trying to turn it off, but it was too late. Quinn buried his hands in his hair. There must be a way to send it back. Meanwhile, the T-Rex suddenly started moving. Its giant steps echoed across the floor of the room. Its massive body lumbered toward the humans. "Run!" Rhea shouted, sprinting toward the door. The team scrambled to escape, but the T-Rex's huge strides were closing in. At that very moment, the sound of heavily armored vehicles and helicopters could be heard outside the research facility. A special unit from the Pentagon, alerted to the situation, had arrived swiftly. Colonel Breyer, leading the assault, moved toward the base. "This creature must be contained," he ordered his team over the radio. The T-Rex emerged from the research facility and found itself in a wide open area. Its enormous size cast a shadow over everything in the vicinity. Following Breyer's command, helicopters took off, and armored vehicles moved in. Soldiers aimed their laser sights at the T-Rex. Breyer, calm and focused, gave the command over the radio, "Weapons free." The sound of helicopters filled the air, followed by the rattle of heavy machine guns. Bullets bounced off the T-Rex's thick hide, barely making an impact. The beast roared, turning its attention toward one of the armored vehicles. In one swift motion, it grabbed the vehicle with its massive jaws and hurled it to the ground. The vehicle exploded into flames. Meanwhile, Quinn and his team had made their way to the rooftop, shouting desperately, "No! Don't kill it! It doesn't belong here. It needs to go back." Quinn yelled, but Briar had his eyes locked on the giant creature. To him, this was purely a threat that needed to be neutralized. "Time's up. Fire!" he ordered. Missiles fired and raced toward the T-Rex's chest. Direct hit. The colossal creature roared in agony, but it only seemed to make it more enraged. Quinn, hopeless, covered his face with his hands. But just then, the T-Rex's eyes glimmered with a strange awareness. It was as if it had suddenly realized the dangers of this modern world and the humans in it. It pulled back, swinging its enormous tail and striking one of the helicopters, sending it crashing to the ground in a fiery explosion. Despite the damage inflicted by the humans, the T-Rex seemed less focused on attacking and more on escaping. It lumbered toward the city lights, eventually reaching an open area. Its eyes scanned the strange structures and technologies, seemingly trying to make sense of this new world. Quinn and his team rushed to follow it. Rhea said, "We need to help it. I know it's intelligent. It's trying to tell us something." Silas knew the time machine needed repairs, but time was running out. "If we can't send it back, we're facing an even bigger catastrophe," he warned. The situation was spiraling out of control. The intelligent and perceptive T-Rex now found itself as a stranger in the world of humans. The sky was engulfed in darkness. The city's lights stretched as far as the eye could see, reflecting both the chaos and the civilization within. The arrival of the T-Rex in the modern world had caused widespread fear, leaving the public and military forces on high alert. Quinn, Rhea, and Silas had realized that the T-Rex was intelligent and sentient, and while they sought ways to protect it and send it back, the military was locked in a relentless struggle to stop it. As the T-Rex marched towards the city center with its colossal strides, helicopters danced in the sky, watching the creature. Military units stood ready to fire at any moment. Colonel Briar's face was cold and professional, determined to eliminate the threat. Despite the vehicles and helicopters circling around it, the T-Rex didn't display aggressive behavior. It was trying to understand the humans, but it knew it was under threat. Swinging its massive tail, it knocked over an approaching armored vehicle. The soldiers inside managed to leap out just before the vehicle exploded. The force of the explosions made the T-Rex stagger backward a few steps, but the giant creature didn't fall. Roaring amidst the flames, it expressed its fury. This anger triggered the predator's instincts, but it also showed that the creature was not a mindless beast. The intelligence in its eyes went unnoticed by those around it. Quinn, Rhea, and Silas watched in horror as the bombardment rained down on the T-Rex. Quinn grabbed the radio and yelled at Briar, "Stop! Don't hurt it! It's not a danger. You don't understand." Briar's voice was firm and sharp. "Not a danger? How many more lives have to be lost? It's a threat that needs to be neutralized." Silas raised his hands in desperation. "Trying to kill it is only making things worse. It's an intelligent being. If we just give it some time." But Briar wasn't listening. As the soldiers prepared for another attack, blood was dripping from the T-Rex's wounds. Yet the creature remained both defensive and strategic. When it swung its tail at another armored vehicle, the vehicle flipped through the air, crashing to the ground. The explosion echoed through the city streets. A team of specially trained soldiers stealthily moved between the buildings, trying to get closer to the T-Rex. Armed with heavy weapons, they moved cautiously, hoping not to attract the creature's attention. But the T-Rex sensed them. Its eyes focused on the figures swiftly moving between the buildings. The soldiers took their positions, aimed their weapons, and fired all at once. The bullets ricocheted off the creature's thick skin, causing little harm. However, the T-Rex was aware of the threats around it. It suddenly turned its massive head towards the building where the soldiers were positioned and lunged at the upper floors with its enormous jaws. Although some soldiers managed to retreat, a few were caught under the debris. Quinn searched for a solution amidst the destruction. He knew Briar wouldn't stop. Rhea noticed the creature's wounds and saw that the deep understanding in its eyes hadn't faded. The T-Rex, trying to avoid further attacks, sped through the buildings. It was no longer engaging directly, but instead evading the threats surrounding it. However, every evasive move triggered a new wave of attacks. While Quinn and his team worked frantically to repair the time travel machine that would send the creature back, the battles in the city raged on. With every new strike, Briar's missiles inched closer, while the T-Rex's careful maneuvers kept it alive. But the creature's strength was beginning to wane. If it failed to deflect the next attack, survival would be impossible. One of the soldiers, equipped with a laser-guided weapon, had locked onto the T-Rex's head. The sniper whispered, "Target locked." Briar gave the command over the radio, "Fire!" At that exact moment, Rhea looked into the creature's eyes and noticed something. "It's trying to tell us something," she said excitedly. "We need to stop." But it was too late. The laser-guided weapon fired its deadly round. The bullet hurtled towards the T-Rex's head. Quinn, Silas, and Rhea closed their eyes, bracing for the inevitable explosion. Yet, the sound they heard wasn't what they expected. Right after the explosion, a cracking sound echoed. Quinn opened his eyes and realized the time travel machine had reactivated. An energy wave rippled across the city. The bullet, moments away from reaching the T-Rex, was caught in the time wave. Under Briar's astonished gaze, the T-Rex's image began to fade slowly. Time had twisted once more. The T-Rex, frozen for a brief moment after the explosion, began to blur. Quinn, Rhea, and Silas watched in disbelief as the creature's body slowly vanished. Quinn's heart raced. "The machine is working. We're sending it back." Briar's voice over the radio was tense enough to disrupt the gravity of the moment. "What's happening? Why is it disappearing?" Rhea, looking at the machine's panel, replied, "We've stabilized the timeline. We're sending the T-Rex back." Briar shouted into the radio, but there was nothing he could do. Before their eyes, the T-Rex slowly evaporated like mist. One last time, the giant turned its head towards Quinn. In its eyes, there was a message, a warning. It was as if the creature was trying to convey that time was a force not to be tampered with. As the creature vanished, its final roar echoed throughout the city. Time was not humanity's toy. The T-Rex had faded away into the blurred currents of time, but the traces and warnings it left behind still echoed through the streets of the city. While Quinn, Rhea, and Silas felt a deep sense of relief after sending the T-Rex back, the effects of the adventure lingered in the modern world. The misuse of the time travel machine hadn't just brought a dinosaur into the present. Time itself had begun to unravel. Quinn stared at the control panel in the lab and realized that the time travel device was losing stability. The monitors were flashing constant warnings, and the graphs were fluctuating wildly. The disruptions in the flow of time were also affecting the machines. Suddenly, the computer screen went black, only to flicker back on moments later. Quinn's hands trembled. "The balance of time is broken," she murmured. Silas, panicking, looked at the control panel. "What can we do? We sent the T-Rex back, but the system is still unstable." Rhea took a deep breath. "This isn't just about the T-Rex. Sure, we sent it back, but we damaged the fabric of time. We didn't just change one thing. We've messed with the past, and now we're seeing the consequences. Quinn buried her face in her hands. We have to do something. In the city, strange events were beginning to unfold. Creatures from different time periods were suddenly appearing in the streets, threatening people's lives and throwing nature out of balance. The time distortions brought on by the T-Rex had unleashed not just its era's creatures, but also other dangers from across history. Dinosaurs, ancient war machines, and prehistoric giant insects were wreaking havoc in the city. Military forces quickly mobilized to take control of the chaos. Colonel Breyer barked orders to his troops. Neutralize all anomalies entering the zone. Organize our units and minimize civilian casualties, but under no circumstances let these creatures reach the city center. Breyer's orders were clear and firm. Armored vehicles lined up against the dinosaurs, and helicopters patrolled the skies. The massive footsteps of prehistoric creatures shook buildings as they stomped through the streets. A colossal triceratops suddenly appeared, flipping cars into the air and destroying everything in its path. The soldiers opened fire immediately. Heavy machine guns rattled as bullets struck the thick hide of the gigantic creature, but to little effect. Helicopters fired rockets from above, but all they managed to do was enrage the beast further. The Triceratops lowered its head, ramming its massive horns into an armored vehicle, flipping it over. The soldiers inside scrambled to escape as the creature advanced on them. Silas watched the scene in horror and turned to Quinn. "This can't go on. We have to find a solution, or the city will be destroyed." Quinn paused for a moment, then responded sharply. "If we can stabilize the time machine, we might be able to figure out how these creatures got here. If we regain control of the system, maybe we can send them back to their own time." Rhea, her voice shaky, raised her hands in frustration. "But the machines are unstable right now. We can't wait for the system to reboot. There has to be another way." The chaos continued to spread. Creatures from different time periods clashed with the modern world, turning the city into a battlefield. People, dinosaurs, and lost fragments of history all struggled to survive in a sea of disorder. The timeline was broken, and the balance of the universe was unraveling fast. Amid the screams and explosions, a figure emerged, the T-Rex. It roared, surveying its surroundings, and began to march toward the city center. Breyer shouted over the radio in disbelief. "This is impossible. We sent it back. Open fire. Now." But this time, the T-Rex moved differently. Despite the hail of rockets and bullets from the military, the creature was unfazed. It skillfully dodged attacks, maneuvering through the buildings with remarkable agility. Meanwhile, other time anomalies continued to wreak havoc. The T-Rex was the only one aware of the temporal distortions. It, too, had been accidentally brought to the modern world, but its survival instincts had gifted it a new sense of purpose. In the midst of the chaos, its intelligence and awareness led it to realize what had to be done. It needed to return the other creatures to their rightful time periods. Quinn, Silas, and Rhea were determined to get the time machine back online. Quinn's hands trembled as she worked on the machine, while Silas kept watch. "If we don't succeed, we won't be able to send the T-Rex or the others back. We have to stabilize this machine." Rhea, her voice tense, checked the data on the screen. "The machine is starting to work again. But we only have one shot at this. If we make a mistake, things could get even worse." At that moment, the T-Rex had reached the military's last line of defense. It looked toward the city center with a glint of understanding in its eyes. Quinn realized what it was trying to do. Silas shook his head in disbelief. "Wait, is it trying to help us?" Quinn nodded firmly. "Yes, but we hurt it without knowing. Now, We need to help it protect time. The scientists had discovered that the only way to repair the fractured timeline was to reach the time gate. But the problem was that the gate would only remain open for a few minutes, and the creatures needed to get there in time. "These creatures aren't fighting us. They're just lost," one of the scientists said to the others. However, amidst the chaos, it seemed impossible for the creatures to find their way to the gate. The T-Rex, sensing the confusion of the creatures around it, used its natural leadership instincts, or perhaps a telepathic bond, to guide them. With a mighty roar, the T-Rex drew all attention toward itself. The other dinosaurs and creatures began to gather around it. Hesitant at first, they instinctively followed their leader. As the T-Rex moved, the others fell into line behind it. People watched in disbelief as the massive creature exhibited extraordinary leadership. Under its guidance, the creatures began to move in an organized fashion, clearing a path through the chaotic city, following the T-Rex with a sense of safety. The time gate was located at a research facility on the outskirts of the city. The scientists had just managed to get the machine working in time. But there was a catch. The gate would only stay open for a few minutes, and all the creatures needed to make it through. Every second counted. "The gate's closing soon. Hurry!" one of the scientists yelled. The path to the gate was filled with dangers. Soldiers were still battling the uncontrolled dinosaurs and creatures. The city streets had been reduced to rubble, with explosions and debris everywhere. The T-Rex led its fellow creatures through these obstacles like a strategic commander, guiding them safely toward the gate. As the gate began to close, most of the creatures had made it through, but a few still lagged behind. With a final effort, the T-Rex herded the stragglers toward the gate. The machine was humming with immense energy, and the gate was slowly sealing shut. As the T-Rex dragged the last creature toward the door, it found itself nearing the edge as well. Its time had run out, but it had accomplished something. It had returned the creatures from the timeline to their natural periods. As the door began to close, the T-Rex turned to look back at the humans. This was its moment of farewell. The scientists had realized what it was capable of and had come to respect it. As the door closed, the T-Rex and the other creatures returned to their own times. The humans now understood that this powerful being was more than just a dinosaur. It was a hero safeguarding the balance of time. Rhea took a deep breath and turned to Quinn. "We were lucky this time. But what about next time?" Quinn gazed off into the distance. "Playing with time is a dangerous game. We've only seen what's possible. Whoever tries to control time will pay the price." The T-Rex's final glance was a warning to humanity. Time was a force not meant to be controlled, and they had learned this lesson before paying the ultimate price. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.